What's up, you guys? It's RC Lee, and today I'm going to be repairing my rear axle on my Losi LMT. I'm going to be putting in this new complete kit that I bought online. It was only $20, and the reason that I bought it was because I live in kind of a warm climate of Southern California, and I really don't bash in the cold very much. And they've also updated this newer version, has kind of webbing inside of there, so it's a little bit more rigid than the older version. So when I take this off, I'll show you the difference between the two. But if anyone's interested in this full kit, it's an axle housing set with everything, including the center section from Losi, and the number is LOS 242055. So if anyone's interested and they want to buy this kit, it comes with all the parts you need to redo this. So we're going to go ahead and take it apart. As you can see, I have a little bit of rust on my springs and screws, so I'm going to have a little bit of trouble getting off probably some of these nuts for the wheels. So I'm going to use my drill instead to try to get some of these wheels off. And then what I usually do is I'll oftentimes use the wheel to prop it up. That's when these come in handy. Put this on the other side over the screw and the nut. Hold that in place. And I usually screw those back together. That way I don't get them lost or confused. Okay. Same thing to the other side. You may wonder why I'm holding it on so long, because it's just unscrewing itself through the heim and the plastic. Next we have these end links here and up here. I'm going to start with the top. Now the only thing still holding are the bottom links and these sway bar links. Same thing over here. So if you have a powered driver, it's really easy to do this, obviously. And even if you don't, it's easy, it just takes a little more time. Okay, so now it's pretty much disconnected besides the transmission and these bottom links. So we're gonna come in here and undo the links. This is all with the 2.0 millimeter X. Okay, there we go. So that's where it was cracked. As you can see on the inside, it's smooth. There's no webbing on the inside here. Whereas the new piece that we're gonna put in has this kind of honeycomb. So that's hopefully going to make it a bit stronger. So now I just have to disassemble this part and put it all back together. So the first thing we want to do is going to be to take these out. Okay, and so when taking this out, you do have to take this pin all the way out in order for this to come off. So don't think it's a grub screw, it's actually a pin. Now to separate this, it's kind of tricky. There's a there's four actually, 1.5 millimeter screws down inside of each of these holes that we're gonna take out. Those are, again, 1.5 millimeter, so really small. Same thing to this one. So you're going to want to set aside about, an hour, maybe two, to do this entire project, depending on how comfortable you are with this type of stuff. And we're going to take this yoke off right here. Again, it's a pin, not just a grub screw, so be sure that when you go to take that apart, you have to actually pull it all the way apart. Okay, and then that just comes apart like that. And now I should be able to start freeing up our axles and our bearings. Move all 4 of these screws on each side. Okay, and then just take this centerpiece off. Out will come your diff. Super caked and dirty, so I'm going to clean all that out, obviously. So here's the new centerpiece versus the old. Fairly similar. So I'll need to take the bearing out of here, obviously. And then on the back side, there's a bearing as well I'll have to take out. So we have those 2 bearings now, which, like I said, I'll clean and put into the centerpiece. As far as the 2 that like I said, I'd show you, you can see the difference in the webbing. You have 2 more screws on top of here. I'll go ahead and take those out. Now there's also another piece that you'll have to take off that it doesn't come with, which is this top kind of, I guess it's like a heim. It's plastic heim where your links connect to. So you have to remove that piece. It's a piece with 3 screws on it to remove in order to attach it right here where these 3 screws are. So don't forget that. Hopefully that part doesn't break because it doesn't come in this kit. If you break those, that's a separate part. Now when you put this back together, you'll notice that 2 of the screws are shorter and 1 is longer, just barely. I don't know if you can see that on here. 2 of these are 1 length and the other one is just a little bit longer than the other ones. So, which would be this one over here. So that one goes in the middle. That one goes right here. Longer distance to travel, so it's easy to remember. Then you just take this piece off, clean it, and put it on the new one. Now it's very important that you're careful with these parts because these parts, these outer hubs, don't come with it either. So these outer hub pieces here that are on the outside of the axle don't come with it. Just so you know. So when you take it apart, it looks like that. And that's it. Then you're pretty much done with this. There's a couple other heims that you have to get off of here. There's this one. And then I believe this one here. And that's it. So, really close. Then all you gotta do is clean it up and put it on backwards. Okay. That's what it looks like on the inside. I need this piece here for the new one. So you really only get, to recap in this set, you only get this side of the axle. So if you broke something and you're wondering, well, what do I need to buy? And what did I break? Well, if you broke this part of the axle, like I did, or you break either side or the centerpiece, then it comes in this kit. Okay? So if you broke this piece or the centerpiece or any of these side, even these heims, then you can replace it with this kit. If you broke this hub piece or this bracket, heim joint, I guess you could say, for the top that connects to the links, then you need to get those parts individually. They're different than the axle. So I hope that helps clear up a little bit if you're curious when you're going to get parts. So anyways, I broke my axle on the back side of the plastic and a part of one of these broke. So I'm going to get some grease and I'm going to put all this back together and clean these parts up here. And be sure you take out all of your bearings. Got the bearings out of the centerpiece here. Now the only thing I need to do is get the bearings out of these hub ends on both sides. Okay, now we're simply going to install all of this stuff backwards. I'm going to start with the axle. I'll put this heim back on there. Remember earlier I said that the long screw goes in the middle hole and then the shorter screws go on the outside. And those are 2mm screws. So I'm putting this on here tight, but not too tight. I don't want to crack it or strip it. Okay, so now it has that Heim back on there. Getting closer. Okay, so you have both your bearings in there. You're going to want to just slide this through here. Make sure it has plenty of grease on the rings, like it does. Then once you have that pulled through on that side, you want to grab your transmission, connect it, line up the holes. Again, remember this is a pin grub screw, so it goes through. So it has to go through and then screws in. And that's a 2.5mm. You don't want to make that too tight, you just want to make it nice and tight there. Okay, so once that's connected, it should spin freely. Now you're going to grab your new axle housing with the, I already attached the Heim. You'll notice there's a little dimple of plastic on that side. You want to put the ring obviously on the opposite side so that it can spin freely. Then put this cover over it. The cover, it doesn't matter which, the centerpiece does not matter which way you put it, upside down or the other, it's the same, this outer cover. Okay, so once we've done that, we're going to put the 4 screws in. I've decided to use the new screws that came with it because some of the screws, the old screws, were very rusted. So I'm going to put that together with some brand new screws. And these screws are going to be a 2.5mm. You always want to go down about 90%, maybe 95% of the way. And then do all of them, kind of like you're installing a wheel. On a car, you want to hex around cross pattern. And ideally you'd want to zigzag, so this one, and then this one maybe, but in this case, just when you go to tighten, be sure that you are equally going on each side. Now we could stick these axles in there. Be sure you have enough light that you can see down and that they go in. One thing too, you don't want to tighten these center bolts too tight or it won't spin freely. So make sure that you don't do it so tight that that can't spin inside. Put these outer yokes together, which is done by simply putting this piece into here, like this. With both, make sure both bearings are in there and push it all the way through. And then once you have that, you're going to come over here and you're going to line up the axle there with the hub, and then that should all turn as one piece. Now, if you can get it to do that, then go through and put your 4 screws in to hold that one side together. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. And those are 1.5mm screws. Your hub, same thing, grab the hub. Put that through there. Then you're going to want to line that up so that it goes through like that. And you're also going to want to make sure you have these on. So we want to line that up and then put that on right there in their spot. Okay, and the same thing, put the other 1.5mm screws in there. Okay, so now it should be looking something like this, and it should be ready to go. We're going to put these Heim joints now on top of there, so there's going to be some that go underneath here and some that go on top. So the ones underneath are going to go like this here, and then the ones on top are going to go like this here. So we're going to install those 4 on each corner, and then we'll be getting really close. We'll put these caps on the ends, and then we're ready to roll. And just a word of caution to you when you're putting these together. So these beveled screws are the ones that go in the bottom, side by side, And the top ones that are on the outsides are the regular heads, round top heads. So just in case you can't remember when you're putting it back together, that's the way that it goes. Always keep making sure that it rotates freely and that both pieces spin. They should obviously be spinning in the same direction on both sides. So now we're going to put in these bottom pieces here. Okay, now the top pieces. Okay, so make sure those are all nice and tight, but not stripped. Okay, so everything's looking good now. It's looking ready to put back together at this point. Okay, so we're gonna put on these hub pieces on the end. So you have to line these up, and again, these are pin grub screws, so you gotta put the pin through. So be sure you pull the pin all the way out when you're removing them, don't forget. You may be thinking, how long can this grub possibly be? But it's actually a pinned grub screw, and it's a 2.5 millimeter. Okay, nice and tight, but not too tight. Other side, line this up, pull it out, put in the grub, pin. Nice and tight, but not too tight. Okay, now we're looking good. We are getting really close here. This is a long repair, so be sure you guys have about an hour so you do all this. Like I said, it's definitely, you know, it's not a difficult repair, but it just takes a lot of time to get all these screws and things apart. And it can become overwhelming if you're not familiar with how to kind of put all this stuff back together. All right, so now we're just going to mate this transmission back together here. And just that way, if you don't do that and you start lining it up, then it won't go together. So I like to do that first. Now what I'd recommend is probably putting in the top heims, and then we're going to get this long screw, and this is going to come all the way through on this side. So this goes through here, and the screw, the nut is on this side. Ideally as straight as possible. There you go. Okay, and then you want to put that little tiny nut on the end here, and it kind of just sits in place. So what you do is, it's a locking nut there. Okay, and then we're gonna, it's kind of hard to see, but you're gonna put your rear links down at the bottom. Okay, and then for these, we're gonna put the long screws in, and this goes on the outside edge. Kind of tell because it's a little cleaner, but so this screw goes through here. Thread this on there, and then once that's on, like I said, I like to grab one of these, use it to hold that side there. Okay, now at this point you need to make sure that you have this arm up in the right spot here, or down in the right spot. Both of these need to be ready to connect on the bottom. Make sure they're not above the top or anything, because once you start putting this together, it starts getting pretty tight and it gets more difficult to go back, and you have to undo stuff. Okay, so then now all we have left is the bottom. And then we have these stabilizers. All right, there it is. All complete. Now all I gotta do is put the wheels back on. And it's ready to go. Ready to dash. And at this point, if you'd like to like and subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. This video took a lot of time trying to set everything up and get it ready. I know it's not perfect, but just wanted to give you guys an idea of what the new axle looks like in the rear on the inside, and hope you guys enjoyed this video. You're ready to go. Alright folks, thanks for watching.